My name is Jennifer, and I have been a Waldorf teacher, educator for just about 20 years. And, when I was, in my late 20s looking for a way to have an impact on the world, it was just a calling for me to want to help make change. And I felt that, the way to make change is through children because they haven't been filled up with a lot of layers of maybe jaded ideas about what the world can be. And I didn't feel that public school was the right fit for me because I wanted something more artistic and more philosophical. And Waldorf education I was just led right to it, and everything resonated right away. So I taught in the class for many years up until COVID. And it was just really the catalyst for seeing a business opportunity or seeing a way to take Waldorf education, which I've been so passionate about for so long, and find a way to make it accessible and affordable to as many people as possible. So that's what has brought me and my two colleagues to the place that we're in today.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yes, and before even talking to Jennifer, I had no idea about this. Like, I knew about Waldorf education, but I had no idea that you can actually take it and teach your children. And so for me, it was very surprising and very beautiful surprise. What do you think is the most important really in the homeschooling? What is actually what is this all about, this homeschooling?
Mm-hmm. I guess there's a few different angles maybe of what is a benefit for homeschooling right now. I think that there are some very high levels of anxiety in children, probably more than we've ever seen, because there's just such a fast-paced, challenging energy around, and kids are little sponges. So if you have a highly sensitive child, they're soaking up a lot of stress. And then, if those little children are going off to school, or teenagers going off to school, it's hard to focus, and it's hard to learn, and it's hard to absorb information if you're on high alert. So if you bring a child home and you establish a beautiful, peaceful, nourishing routine, then their alarms are turned off, and they can start to learn and absorb. So that's one benefit I see. Another one is the attachment and the connection that you can deepen with your child, the parent-child attachment that maybe our busy lives have kind of weakened because the pace is so quick, and it's like, get up, get off, get to school, I go to work, we come home, we're tired, we're at our worst kind of at the end of the day, everybody goes to bed, and we do it all again the next day. So there's that advantage of a nourishing attachment, being engaged in your child's education. And then the benefit of the Waldorf education is it's so nourishing on every level that you're giving your child these hands-on activities and artistic activities and enriching stories every day. So you're kind of learning alongside your child.
Yeah, this part is very interesting. Maybe you can talk a little bit about the stories. Before this interview, we had a talk, and you talked so nicely about it. So can you elaborate more about the stories and why is it so important right now in education?
Yeah. Um, Stories are really the foundation of the Daily Wonder curriculum, because we're teaching children between the ages of 7 and 14. And that's when they're in their strongest feeling realm. Their hearts are just wide open, and they're soaking in all kinds of emotions and feelings. And so we want to feed them and nourish them with the stories of being human. And we follow this really precise the stages of development in childhood. So when the children are in grade 1, they're hearing all the fairy tales. They're hearing about all the good and evil in the world, and there's so much imagination at that age that they just soak up all the archetypes and all the truths about how good prevails in these fairy tales. Despite all the wicked stepmothers and wicked witches, good prevails, and that really feeds them at a foundational level that good is what can be achieved in the world. And then when they're in grade 2, we start to see these polarities in them. They're loving, and then they're angry, and then they're greedy, and then they're generous, and everything's opposite. So we bring them the tales of the fables So like all the characteristics that show up in humanity, we see in these stories of animals, right? Like the sly fox and the greedy dog and, you know, the boastful rabbit. And they're just at a stage where they feel those qualities so strongly, and it teaches them these moral lessons without us sitting down and saying, okay, now, Billy, you must never be greedy, because, you know, they just absorb the information. So we show them the fables to see the less desirable qualities in humans and to make that impact on them. But then we also give them stories of heroes and noble men and women so that they can see what to strive towards. So there's that experience. And then we give them stories in grade 3 that meet them at this stage where they're looking for an authority figure that will guide them to this new independence that they're seeking. And we move through the grades. We move into grade 4 and we bring them Norse mythology, and we bring these rich heroic tales of the foibles of these great gods and goddesses. And then suddenly mythology in grade 5 switches from ancient mythology to actual history. And we move into Greek history and Roman history and the Middle Ages. And it just gets deeper and more sophisticated, but it's moving from mythology to biographies of great men and women. And what we're doing is feeding their soul for who we are as humans, where we've come from, and where we can go, and the mistakes we've made along the way, and how we can do it differently.
Yes, that's beautiful. So just reminder who just joined us, please put hashtag live in the comments if you're watching live, or hashtag replay if you're going to watch on replay. We're talking to Jennifer about the homeschooling. So the stories, yes, very interesting. But then the question is how, like, they go through these stories, and then, but how can we make sort of sure that they're actually getting it? Because sometimes, like, I see a kid, maybe, you know, they read and they don't understand, and then you want, like, there is this temptation, right, to enforce it. Then you would say, you see, this is how you should not do it.
Right.
You see, this is how you should do it.
Yeah.
And so, and again, we kind of doing the other thing that is defeating the whole purpose of that. So how come you take this in your education and you're so sure that they will get it, like, without enforcing this again and again?
Yeah, that's a good question. The main reason is because the way the lessons are guided, there's a story that's told to your child. They soak it in, they go to sleep that night, and a lot of magical things happen in sleep, you know, and you wake up the next day and you just begin a conversation with them, you know, what did you think about that story? Why did that character do that? Why do you think so and so did that? And you're just encouraging reflection, right? It's a muscle to exercise. So we want, as humans, we want to be reflective so we can think back on what we've done, what we could do differently, how we can do it differently next time. So we're helping children exercise those abilities through these review processes every day. And then Waldorf is the Daily Wonder, which is inspired by Waldorf, is so much about bringing these experiences into the body and into the heart forces. So it's hands-on activities. So if you heard that story, then maybe the next day you're acting that story out, or you're reciting a poem from it, or you're modeling one of the characters from it, or you're drawing a picture or writing a story. So it's those artistic activities that start to live into the body. And that's what is making it impactful. Like, I think most of us, if we think back to our school times when we were children, the things that stand out for us that we remember are often and are like, I remember the plays I did as a kid. You know, we did a few plays in our school, or I remember a song I learned, or a poem, or something that's artistic, something that spoke to my heart, right? And so everything we're doing in this stage is feeding their heart, and it's just living in their body in a way that it's not just information going into the head.
Yes, that definitely makes sense. It's just like, wow, so amazing. And so what do you think then is missing in our, like, regular schooling? So this part, is there anything else you think is missing in the, you know, like a traditional, conventional way of teaching and schooling?
Like, I think that the conventional model for probably couple hundred years has been so focused on the intellectual and the academics of like, let's get those kids learning early, and the earlier they learn, the smarter they're going to be, and the better they're going to be ready for their future careers. So let's just get information into their head as quickly as possible. And I see a lot of effort being made in the BC Ministry's new education. Like, a lot of good changes are happening, but it's going to take time for it to be implemented and fully integrated into the classroom every day. But what's missing is that full connection that is feeding your heart. You know, children are just living in their bodies and in their feelings more than their head. I mean, we're teaching to their head so they can sit there and learn and absorb in their head, but it's not nourishing their whole body. And what we want is that nourishment of a whole integrated body. Really, the head, the intellectual learning is best served as the high school phase in university. That's when you could put a lot of information into the head. But, you know, we want to follow the natural rhythms of the child as they grow. And what we see is that we want to spend more time in the body and the heart. And another great example of how we know that they're learning these things and where it shows up later, I love the examples. Like in grade 5, they learn Greek mythology. So there's this deep connection because they do, you know, you can be reciting poetry and singing and drawing and modeling and all this artistic work. So it's living in your body. And then you maybe go off to university and you study classic Greek history or mythology. And all of a sudden, like, those memories come back quickly, right? And now you have this deep feeling, oh, I loved learning about Socrates, or I love the story of Hercules. And it's meaningful. And then you want to learn more because you have a connection. Whereas a lot of us end up in university and it's time to study classic Greek history or mythology. I know personally, I didn't know why that mattered. I had no connection to it in my life, no bearing on my own existence. And it's missing the heart connection and the foundation, which is what we lay in these early years.
Wow, amazing. Yes, now everything like makes sense.
Yeah.
Because exactly right. Who didn't feel that way? Go to university and have no idea, like, why am I studying this or that?
Yeah.
But if we can connect it from the early years, I
Mm.
think it's like, well, for me, I see it very revolutionary.
Right.
And
So yeah, I guess
right?
again, the answer is like, the Daily Wonder curriculum it's integrating and it's making all the subjects meaningful, and you know why you're learning it because it relates back to learning about yourself. Like, we all are trying to understand what it means to be human, why we're on this earth, what we're supposed to be doing, and really that's what our education should be. It should be social, emotional, you know, learning, building understanding of ourselves and others.
Yes, I think that especially now, right at this time, is exactly the kind of a feeling we need to have, why we're here, and our children need to understand that so that we can um, don't end up in so much darkness, but be more in
Right.
the light.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you know, this for many parents, like this, even thought of homeschooling is terrifying.
Yeah.
It's so hard, right? How am I going to do this? And there will be lots of emotions, and they will not listen to me. So for those parents who are thinking of doing this but hesitate about it, what would you suggest to them?
Mm-hmm. So let's not pretend that it won't be challenging, you know, like it is a challenging thing because it's challenging to be a parent. So it's also challenging to be a teacher, and you're bringing that together. There's some important parts that we so strongly know to be true, and that is um, find the routine, the rhythm that works for your family and stick to it, because children thrive in rhythm and routine. So once it sometimes takes 6 weeks, it's about 6 weeks to implement a routine that your child then can just sink into. And the routine is now carrying you. But for those first 6 weeks, it's the will forces of the parent making it happen every day. Oh, at 9 o'clock, we sit down, at 10 o'clock, we do this. But after a little time, that routine's carrying you, and your will forces can relax a little bit. So that's one thing, rhythm and routine. Um, there's another part. Oh, and another part is the beautiful opportunity for your own self-development as a parent, because you are constantly given the opportunity to face challenging moments, to face feeling triggered. Like, we are most triggered by our children, I think, because they trigger those wounds in us, like, we're, oh, what did I do wrong, why aren't, what is it about me that I've given them this quality or whatever. Like, we're very hard on ourselves. So we can truly practice that compassion and love and honoring that we are doing the most we can do, or the best we can do in this moment. And Daily Wonder just did an interview with Marnie Elliott from Nurtured Heart Approach, and we used to work with her when we taught at the Comox Valley Waldorf School. And she offers this way of meeting your child's behavioral challenges with this specific approach, which we have an interview for, and people could find it on our website probably in another day or two. But it's a way to take the challenge of working with your child every day and use it as an opportunity for self-development, and to build your child's own ability to regulate themselves over time. So you're doing such amazing work, but there's no question that it's challenging.
Yes, yes. Yeah, we need a lot of patience for that, right?
Also, I guess the third part that we know makes it easier is that it is a beautiful curriculum that brings activities that children love. So it's not so much that you're forcing them to do things that don't fit with them. Like, it's following their developmental stages. So the stories speak to them, the activities meet their needs, and they want to do those things. So that does make it flow more smoothly as well, for the most part.
That's amazing. Yes, but there is also the academic part, right, in the curriculum. And what about if some parents struggle with this? They say, well, I don't feel I can teach this. Maybe I don't have enough, knowledge, or yes, I'm not feeling confident in terms of the knowledge itself and teach it to kids. Then how would they overcome this?
Mm-hmm. So we always provide an overview of what's coming up for the month that you're getting into. And we give links for ways you might want to prepare. So if it's math and you're not really good with fractions, then, take a few days before and follow the different links and get familiar. And I've said a bunch of times, like, it's through my own preparation as a teacher that I really learned fractions and decimals and all these things that just kind of went over my head as a kid. So it's another opportunity as a parent to learn alongside your child. You can be one step ahead. It's not university math. It's still stuff that is, be interesting to come back and try to learn it again as an adult, because you have different capacities, to focus.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then when it comes to ancient histories and things, like, there's a lot of guided material. So you're not left to just do all your own research.
Okay, yeah, that's very assuring. Like, it feels better that you have that support, that you don't have to remember everything or go do it on your own. I see a few people are watching live, and Carrie said, reflection is a muscle you exercise. I love this.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah, so it's really cool. And well, then, can you maybe tell us, you talked a little bit already, but maybe actual first question is, are there any free resources where parents can go and they can start exploring this? They don't know where to start, and it's like a starting point for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of parents don't know how you even approach homeschooling. So on our website, dailywonder.ca, if you go to the tab and click on About, in there's a link to homeschooling information. And our administrator, Marisha, just gathered all the different links for to help in BC, but also in the other provinces in Canada, and even a link in the States, just to know how to start to figure out how the process begins.
Yes, okay, good. Yeah, so I'll put this website in the comments, so dailywonder.ca, and there will be free resources where parents can start. And so maybe just tell us a little bit about this, how what you guys came up with, which again, I found very amazing and fascinating, and especially that I thought now Waldorf is gone and there will be like no future, but this is
Mhm.
like a new future. And so what program includes, or just a little bit about that?
Mhm. Our vision has really been to take as much of the Waldorf community experience that we loved um, through the school and figure out how to create a hub, like an online hub that can offer some of those same experiences. So this year, our biggest focus is on building writing the content so that all of the units are there ready for parents to access. Um, Along with that, we have um, a lot of different resources for math, like lots of different math games and activities and ways to engage your child. We have a lot of resources for poetry and drawing, and we just want to keep building up this bank, really, this library of videos and tutorials and resources so that a parent can, like, we just put links in our content and say, check out this link for ideas on intentional movement activities. We always want to start the day with some sort of physical activity, so we offer lots of different suggestions. So we've got um, the written daily content, we have videos and tutorials to support parents, we have parent education. So this interview we did with Marnie Elliott yesterday and others like that are starting to um, be brought so that parents can see the opportunity for their own self-development at the same time. And yeah, so there's that. And then in our daily content, we always offer parents, questions to think about just as they're entering this month-long unit. And it's nice to see, oh, I have a lot of anxiety around math. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. I'm worried about this, or my child hates math and I don't know how I'm going to get them to learn it. And then questions at the end to reflect on what that month was like. So we're encouraging parents to do that same reflection. So we're trying to build up the layers of what it can be to be at home with your child and making it useful for the adult and the child together.
Yes, that's great. So let me see if we have any questions. No questions so far. So if you have questions, put them in the comments. We'll ask Jennifer at the moment. And then also that part, actually, before we talked, and you kind of enlightened me as well about this, like, because before I felt like homeschooling is that, you're on your own, you are sitting at home. I had no idea about this. And my son is only 4, but I'm already thinking about it. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then you told me about the part that actually we are not alone. And it was very, very beautiful to understand that. So can you talk about this a little bit? How
Mm-hmm.
does it work?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that daily wonder does encourage, certainly when it's hard because of COVID and everything, but it's about social connection. So having opportunity for your child to have these weekly social groups or a few times a week, whatever works with your local community, is so important. So we encourage that, and that's when the the typical friend conflicts come up, and those are amazing learning opportunities. So we want your children to be playing with others on a regular basis and get into those little conflicts and have adults who are there to redirect and give verbal cues as to how to navigate conflict in healthy ways. So that's really important. The other thing that's becoming really popular are these learning pods, right? So a lot of families want to team up with 3 or 4 up to 6 families with children of the same age group. And then these 5 or 6 kids come together, and either the parents could rotate teaching 1 month at a time to their group of kids, or sometimes they hire a facilitator if the parents need to work, and they split the cost. So this is growing a lot. There's a group that we've become connected with called Learning Pods Canada, and they're just starting to launch their website in another month, I believe, and it's going to be like a one-stop shop where you go there and you can find and access other families looking for groups of the same age, choose a curriculum, find a space to do it. So it's really an idea that's growing. You kind of get the best of both worlds. You get a homeschool type environment, but you get a small social group that you're growing up with.
Yes, yes. It's all just seems so yeah, making sense, and like feels like there is some future about it. There is some brightness about it.
Yeah.
And especially if many families think about this if they want to do this, and it's like also creating another kind of a community which is
Yeah.
not sort of dependent on the government or how things should be, but they have more like critical thinking. They have more ways to cope with life and stress like we have right now, and then they also have opportunity to support each other.
Hmm.
So it feels to me like homeschooling, yes, it's not just about just homeschooling your child. It's about a lot of things, developing yourself as your qualities as a parent, the quality of connection with your child, connection with community. So
Hmm.
it's such an amazing opportunity. I mean, I don't know how I will feel about it when time comes, but that
Yeah.
will be my first option to consider is to talk to Waldorf and see how we can do that. Um, I don't see any questions so far, but I see some moms watched, and hopefully they got some beautiful value out of that.
Hmm.
If any questions anybody has, you can still drop in the comments or message me directly or message Jennifer. She's there in our group. And yes, and you can check out the website, see if it helps you to start this process. Anything else you'd like to share, Jennifer, before we go?
Yeah, I think it just occurs to me as well to mention that, we're living through this amazing transition and awareness as humans about the importance of equality and about fighting for the rights of everyone and that all voices matter. And I think that all education is trying to um, kind of reinvent themselves, or at least be honoring um, the the voices of the minority that haven't been captured in our education, in the curriculum that's mainstream. But Waldorf education, that's been around for 100 years and that we work from and are inspired from, has always brought a cultural diversity to its curriculum. So it's just natural for us that we're raising children and educating children to just be so open and accepting of all religions and races, because the curriculum guides the child through the major religions on the earth and their different principles, and you're always coming to see the commonality between all the religions and the connection between all of them. And that's just a foundation, again, that's laid for children. I have students that I taught so many years ago that are now 25 years old, and I've met up with them as adults, and I'm always so amazed to talk to them as adults and get a feeling that yes, they're living with this depth and open-heartedness that they don't even necessarily fully understand. Maybe they do now, but they didn't for many years understand what was feeding them all those years, right? Like we were watering seeds, we were planting seeds of that love and acceptance and compassion for all of humanity. And that's really what we're trying to do on the earth right now, isn't it?
Mhm. Yes, that's so beautiful. Wow, amazing. Yes, actually, that's a great thing to see those people who had this education and
Yeah.
they talk very differently, like they're
Yeah.
um,
And I think I think we have to compromise with the times, right? So Waldorf education has often been unknown and kind of, it's the fastest growing independent education system in the world, but most people have never heard of it. So there's something going on there that I've never fully understood, but I've always felt like if only it could be more accessible, more affordable, better known. Ideally, one day it becomes the public education and kids are all learning it together in groups. But I think we're in a transition and we compromise with the times, and the times are offering it as a homeschooling option. And I think that that's possibly the best way we can meet our children's needs now. And who knows where that will lead to the future, but maybe enough moms in the world feel the importance of this new education. And, it's the grassroots that, brings it to the mainstream and into the public system at some point in our future. Like, we have no idea where it's heading, but we just have to, really take advantage of what we can do with it now.
Mm-hmm. That is so beautiful. You all are doing such amazing work, and for the whole humanity. And we hope more children will be in the kind of understanding of life. Yes, thank you so much. And thank you for today, for sharing your wisdom with us.
For creating this platform. I think it's such a great idea.
You're welcome. So we'll talk to you soon.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.